Hello, I'm Naomi Kinsman, an author and the executive director of Society of Young Inklings. In today's quick revision lesson, we are going to be talking about how to bring your narrative alive in full sensory detail. What I want you to do is to grab a piece of paper, and we are going to go through an exercise where you are going to put on your director hat. So you're going to imagine that you are actually directing this story as though you're putting it up on a stage. And so you're going to look at this piece of paper kind of from a bird's eye view, and you're going to label what you see in the setting. So think about if we were going to put this entire narrative onto a stage, how would we do it? In your narrative, you might have multiple settings, in which case you might need to do this exercise more than once. But I want you for right now to choose the most important setting in your narrative. Maybe the place where the most important action happens, where the actual climax happens, or perhaps your whole story happens in one location. Now you have this piece of paper in front of you and hopefully a pencil. And what we're going to do is we are going to draw a bounding box. So if your space is an inside space, it might make the most sense to draw a rectangle. Or if it's outside in the forest, you might want to create a circle or create kind of a lumpy shape. Put that down on your page and put your pencil down and close your eyes. Now, while your eyes are closed, I want you to just listen. What kinds of sounds might you hear in this space? Hopefully you came up with at least one or two sounds that you can put down on your page, maybe even more. So you may have an object that creates that sound. So there might be a ticking clock, or there might be a certain bell in the room. What you can do is put that object onto your stage. So you can put it on the side, you can put it in the middle, you can put it in the back, wherever it is, and then label it so you know where that sound is coming from. It's possible that your sound is coming from off stage, and if so, you may want to draw an arrow pointing onto your stage with a label from off stage of what that sound is. Now, not all sounds pull our attention. We don't always turn and look when we hear a sound. However, some sounds really do draw our attention and energy, or sometimes sounds will make an overall tone. A very loud lunchroom will feel different than a very quiet library. So the sounds in a library might be more important because each one really stands out. We started with sound because it's one of the most powerful senses to bring a scene alive for our reader. Because we tend to describe what we see and what we actually physically interact with, sometimes we forget to sort of create the atmosphere of our setting, and sound can do that. The other two senses that can do that very powerfully are smell and feel. So of course, if you have grandma's kitchen and the chocolate chip cookies are baking, that smell is coming from the oven, so you can label the oven and where the cookie smell is coming from. But if it's more of an overall feeling like coldness in the air or a general smell, you can just label it around the edges of your setting. Now you've defined some of the sounds and the feeling and the smell potentially of this setting so that you will bring the setting alive in your reader's mind. I want you to step back from the experience because you were actually inside your own skin, and now I want you to look at it from a director's point of view and think, if I were to stage this on a stage, what would I put on the backdrop? What sorts of objects would I put as setting pieces on my stage? And go ahead and start to label those around your stage. It's important for you to think about all the important elements of the setting, because then you can make the decision which of them you might want to include in your scene. For many of us, once we've had a first draft of any scene that we've written, we have fleshed that whole scene out in our imagination, but we haven't actually put those details on the page. So for us, it feels very clear what kind of soccer field that this is. We understand everything about the weather, we understand how the grass was, we understand all the other people around us, how big the crowd was. But in many cases, our reader can't see those things because we have not put them on the page. So before you decide what you want to put in, I want you to be aware of what's there. So as your director self, go ahead and draw those things down on your setting. So now you have all of these details about your setting, and you need to decide what you're going to include in the scene. It is possible to distract your reader by adding too many sensory details. So what you want to do is strike that balance between bringing the scene alive for your reader and making sure to focus them on what's most important at the moment. So we should go back to a question that we've been asking a number of times through this whole series, which is, what is the effect that I want to make? If you want to create a feeling of warmth and comfort for your reader, then adding in the detail about grandma's chocolate chip cookies and the warmth from the oven, those details are going to bring the scene alive. Look at each moment of your narrative and think, how can I include those sensory details, those sounds, the feeling, the smells, what I saw, what I was interacting with? How can I include those so that the reader feels the way that I would like them to feel in that specific moment? You may want to also draw a scene for any other important setting in your narrative, so you can do that as well. And then go to your piece and look for those important moments. Maybe look to the beginning, the middle, and the end, and think, what is the feeling I want my reader to have here? And how can I use details from the setting to really bring that emotion and feel out? Once you've made your decisions, add those sensory details to your narrative. You are doing a fantastic job of making your narrative better and better by trying out these different revision strategies. Come back soon for another revision strategy, and remember, we're looking forward to seeing your submissions for the Stone Soup Personal Narrative Contest. We can't wait to see what you create. See you soon.